unmute.
I'm pretty sure it was a
Hi, I'm in
mistake.
Sweeting. Hi, I'm in Dallas.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Good evening, everybody. If we could stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have one hand check, Alex Marcoux, 6926.
Hayden Blazek Ahern is 762.72. Jeffrey Collins is 821.07. Wayne Robinson is 1,066.60. Katie Coppola is 241.25. Shayla Gherkin is 92.90. Mary Lyons Hall is 171.18. Janice Weirs is 845.71. Kiki Doniswall is 733.74. Marley Beltry is 55.41. Joseph Bird is $1,115.15. John Bryant, $795.89. Keith Culligan, $741.86. Alexander Hall, $237.39. Julia Labonte is $375.75. Barry Levine is $201.78. Jeremy Potter is $265.62. Nathan Richards is $861.72. Benjamin Roach is $288.14. Katrina Tennant is $797.56. Jack Tremblay is $716.15. Trevor Whitby is $819.22. Jason Gagne is $110.82. Andrew Gray is $674.93. Kip Kaiser is $839.15. Kendra Brackett is $583.65. Justin Doty is $901.38. Robert Gagnon is $817.02. Matt Kelly is $1,410.97. James Saltzman is $860.27. Christopher Spitaleri is $784.17. Josh Turner is $197.17. Jeremy Worcester is $688.92. Jared Wright Ward is $852.75. John Ventura is $1,504.21. Jillian Benedicts is $640.52. Karen Clements $1,286.89. Heather Haggett is $312.84. Tamara Peak is $801.45. Daphne Ross is $853.72. Joyce Kegel is $590.62.
Total direct deposit, $26,718.26.
Combined total of $26,787.52. We had no hours of overtime in the PD, 10 at fire, and 1.5 at highway. First up, we'll do 2022 accounts payable.
Are we almost done in 2022 or?
Could be.
Bergeron Protective Clothing, $278. Boundtree Medical is $1,402.83. Center for Occupational Health, $57. Chapel Tractors, $36.96. C&M Cleaning, $6,039.61. Firematic Supply is $2,100. GKG Planning is $5,565. Hartman Oils, $1,820.68. Kip Kaiser is $13,800. Math and Planning Solutions, $3,700. Mitchell Municipal Group is $2,455. North of Boston Media is $172.43. Painter One is $7,208.25. Pinnacle TCI is $620. Sandown Wireless is $110.50. Suburban Propane is $3,143.32. Tri-State Generator is $2,988.55. UniFirst Corp is $126.80. WM Corporate Services is $4,205.31. WB Mason is $654.29.
Total accounts payable, 2022, $56,484.53.
Ben's uniform, $265. Block 5 tech is $456. Brentwood, New Hampshire Common Capital Reserve Fund is $400 even. E&J Auto Parts is $12.58. First Light is $173.27. Great America Financial Services $348.80. Hartman Oil and Propane is $1,228.60. Image Trend is $2,306.03. Legend Software is $333 even. Morton Salt's $4,804.91. State of New Hampshire Treasurer is $50 even. Suburban Propane
Hold on a
is...
second.
Okay.
We are stuck. Okay.
There you
That for this?
go. Yeah, that just goes
Oh,
with that quote.
that's why it's stuck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right, I'm good on the 50.
Okay, then we're Suburban Propane is $806. Title Communication is $215.15. Ultra Automotive Repair is $455.50. UniFirst Corp is $63.40. Valak is $261.45. WB Mason is $17.92.
2023 accounts payable, $12,197.61.
We had one ACH payment to Swayze for $181,000 even.
Thank you.
Is it me or are they going down?
It did go down, right, it was one,
It seems like it's going
In
down.
January, it did.
Yeah.
thank you.
Have a good week.
Thank you.
Take a motion on consent agenda.
Motion.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Consent agenda includes the public minutes from 110, non-public minutes from 110, which are sealed, the recreation manifest, treasurer's report, and building permits. Documents.
This is the 2023-2024 tax map maintenance contract with CAI for $3,100.
Take a motion to sign the tax map maintenance
Motion.
contract.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any other docs? Karen would like to replace 2 computers out of the capital reserve for IT hardware. It's one of those swings.
Yes, it's a desktop with a 27-inch monitor and speakers for Wayne, and then a laptop for supervisors of the checklist.
Motion.
Second?
Moved and seconded to expend $2,429.99. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Jack, come on down. We're on a roll tonight.
We're only,
Certainly are on the road.
we're 9 minutes into this thing, so.
I thought about coming a little later, but I missed it. But thank you for taking time to consider low-income elderly. My mother was able to live in her house until she was 100, and it meant a lot to her. And actually, it meant a lot to her neighbors. And we live in a town that has a reasonably high median household income, and it seems like we should maybe do a little more than we have been doing as far as making some tax relief available to elderly people. the proposals that I put together, and I think you have all seen them, started with Karen this summer, who did the survey that you see of 37 towns. And our numbers were significantly below average as far as allowing elderly people to qualify. So I wanted to look at what the median would be, maybe where we could be, but not to open the door so wide that we'd be overwhelmed by people becoming eligible. And so the proposed numbers that I put there are other people in other towns that are higher than our numbers. So presumably those towns are not overwhelmed. So that's kind of my guardrail in that regard. So I don't know if you have any questions about the numbers or how I came to them.
And from my understanding, if an elderly townsperson has income under these barriers, they are exempted completely from taxes?
No,
What's
they
the
are,
exemption that they're granted?
they're granted an exemption against property that they own that is taxed.
The
So,
valuation, right?
yes, so maybe, I think the lowest household evaluation in our town is somewhere around 300,000
Yep.
or a little bit more. So they might only get $100,000 exemption, or maybe 200,000, but they would still owe taxes on.
Oh, so it
on-
would just reduce the taxable
Right.
property value?
Right.
Gotcha, okay, I just need to understand how the exemption works.
And that's, it's a state program, so
Right.
that's the way that it's set up.
And it's based off of the income limits, married, single,
Income and
and assets. So it combines them all together.
Right, but assets doesn't include the house and property
Okay.
that they reside in. If they own a second house, that is included in an
Okay.
asset.
And
So
if they-
the-
sorry.
Oh, sorry, so the first column here is the actual amount of the exemption that they would be granted,
Depending on their age.
depending on
yes.
their age. So it would increase the 80 plus from 125,000 up to 190,000. And then looks like similarly, you've increased the income limits and the asset limits to allow them to qualify for this.
Right,
Okay, so it both makes it easier to qualify and gives you a bigger exemption.
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now, the obvious question is, well, how many people will that open the door for? And, what will that mean for total exemptions? Answers to which I don't have. So, I don't know whether Daphne would have a feel for that, but, or Karen might, but
Don't.
Do we know like ballpark, how many people we have in town on an elderly exemption?
We have 8 that currently qualify
8.
now.
Okay.
So on any given year, I might get 1 or 2 applications. We don't generally see a lot. But a lot of folks come in and they see the asset and income limitations and say, oh, okay. And they know right away that they're not gonna meet them, so they don't bother with the paperwork. So probably, 5 to 10 people a year do that.
Gotcha.
And is this something we can do on the board, or do we have to do a warrant article?
This is a warrant article that goes to town meeting. So you would just approve the new exemption amounts and the asset and income limitations, and then that would get put forward to
I
the
would
voters.
love to even see the veterans credit go up, because it looks like we're fairly low on that too.
600 is the maximum.
Oh, some have 750.
I think it's by,
There's a lot of them with
let me
750.
see what the statute says.
I didn't comment on that because I'm directly involved, so.
Oh, okay.
But it's gotta be two separate.
Two separate warrant
Yeah.
articles, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And Jack, do we feel like, is it the BudCom that came up with these numbers, or was it a subcommittee?
We talked about it at BudCom, but then I thought if it was unanimous then maybe we present it that way. But there was a discussion, and some people were just unsure, but you saw who signed the letter. There are some members of the BudCom on there, and in fact, Lois is here if she, if you want to probe her a little bit too.
I guess I'm just wondering with these numbers, do we feel that these increases will make a significant impact on townspeople in Brentwood? Like, will we be able to, financially help people stay in their homes, above and beyond these 8 people if we pass these numbers? Or maybe is this not enough for a relatively wealthy town? We're 13th highest median income in the state. I guess I just wonder, maybe we don't know. Maybe nobody knows the answer to that.
For which I don't know the answer to
Right,
that.
okay.
But in the census, in the 2020 census, they came up with a number of 29 persons in Brentwood who were living in poverty. In other words, they fit the federal poverty description, which is awfully limiting. How they could live in Brentwood, with such little income, I have no idea. But if we could capture those 29 people, that would be a start.
Right.
I'm not, for me, I'm not sure I would go greatly beyond the numbers that I've proposed. But in a year or two, we would know what
have
kind
more
of response
information.
there was, and if we felt we wanted to do more, that could be done. It would be really hard to go in the other direction.
Right.
Although inflation, in a way, over time would do exactly that.
Right. Okay.
Bob, it is 750 is the maximum for regular veterans credit.
I'd be fine with doing the elderly exemption warrant article,
Yeah.
but I'd love to do the veterans credit to go to the 750.
Let's stick to one at a time.
Let's do, yeah, let's finish this one.
Let you know where I'm going mentally, so.
So I think this seems perfectly reasonable when you look at some other towns, just for the benefit of people watching who don't have the spreadsheet in front of them. Our exemption for 80 plus was $125,000, but other towns varied from 165 to 236. So us going to 190 kind of is in the middle, which I'm assuming is probably how you guys came up with it.
185's in the middle.
Oh, yeah, so
He's
in the
got the
190,
median on
yeah,
there.
so it's pretty close to sort of splitting the difference between some of those ranges. And it seems like the bigger changes to me are in the income and asset, where we would be, increasing the allowable assets from 85,000 up to 225, which seems to me pretty reasonable. So I think this is reasonable to put to the voters. I think the hard thing will be, just like you said, Jack, we can't answer the question. How many people will qualify for this? How much will it cost the taxpayers? We know it's probably not a lot, but we're sort of just doing this because it feels like the right thing to do, rather than knowing exactly how many people it will benefit.
Yeah,
So
there's
I'm
a
in
lot of
support of
numbers
this.
here, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's not a
Right, but I like your perspective of let's do this for a year or two and see if that number of 8 goes up to 12 or 15 or 20. And if it only goes up from 8 to 9, maybe we didn't do enough. So I'm in full support of this. We can make a motion to put this forward as a warrant.
I would kind of like to bring the asset limits down to 200,000, which would be closer to the median.
I'd be fine with that.
Jack, is there a reason for both of these that you guys just sort of went above the median a little bit? Was it just because of the,
Well, the median, to me, the survey was done in the summer, right? And probably the numbers that were shown were from the previous year. So I would say maybe were decided, let's say, in the previous year. So they were already a little bit old. And so, it's arbitrary, and there's plenty of room for judgment here. And and I'm not gonna be upset if you wanna mess with the numbers a bit, so.
It's hard to say either way, right, because I just
Right.
don't have the data of how, if we change it from 225 to 200, are we gonna lose some low-income elderly people? I don't know. I really don't know, so whatever the board's comfortable with, I'm okay with.
It's been, was it 2017 when this was last reviewed?
Yes.
So it's been a relatively long time, and
I mean, we're doing a substantial increase from 85 to
Yeah,
200,
yeah.
so.
I think that's fine. I
I'd be
mean,
fine with that.
I'd be willing to drop it to 200.
Russ?
Yeah, agreed.
Are you good with the income limitations? Do you want 50 and 65, or do you want to stick with the medians at 40 and?
I think 50 and 65 is fine.
Okay, so do you need a motion?
Yes.
Yes.
So I'll make a motion to accept these changes to elderly credit and exemption with the change of the single and married asset cap from 225 down to 200,000
As a warrant.
as a warrant article on the, at town meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries.
thank you all.
You're welcome.
I'd like to make a motion for a warrant article to go for the veterans exemption up to 750, since that's the limit we can do.
Does that make it easier to
Do
follow?
I
As a
have
warrant
a-
article.
Do I have a second on that?
Sure, I'll second that. Looks like a lot of towns do 750.
Any further discussion? All in favor of a warrant article to increase the veterans tax credit to $750? All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Abstain.
Did,
301.
is the disabled exemption also on the table for discussion? Because I see that here in our,
Yes.
yes. Okay.
Before you move on to that, do you want to talk about the tax credit for service-connected disabilities while you're doing veterans credits?
Sure.
So if the VA finds you totally and permanently disabled due to service, the statute would allow up to $4,000 credit, and the town currently offers $1,700.
Which is significantly lower than most of the towns on this list.
So that is
That's if you
the-
have like a disability directly related to military service?
Yes, but it has to be deemed totally and permanently disabled.
Oh, okay.
So that's the column under RSA 72:35,
I would imagine we have a relatively low number,
11.
11.
The median is 2,000.
Yeah, median's 2,000.
And we currently do 1,700.
Mhm.
I think increasing that is reasonable. Would you want to do the median, Andy? Would you feel the most comfortable with that?
Warrant article for 2,000.
Quite a few do the full 4,000, but then some do even less.
I'm good with 2,000.
I'll make a motion to do that for $2,000 as a warrant article.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carries.
Would these all be on the same warrant article or all separate?
All
All separate, okay.
Yes, Lee.
Tell me what the numbers for the first one were?
The veterans,
No, the first one.
it was for 65 to 74-year-olds. Instead of an $85,000 exemption, they'll now get a $125,000 exemption.
Okay.
For 75 to 79-year-olds, instead of a $100,000 exemption, they'll get 160. And for 80 plus, instead of 125,000 exemption, they will get a 190,000 exemption.
Okay.
And then there's a whole set of income, so the single income limit to qualify is 50,000. The married is 65,000. And then we agreed for assets, 200,000, and those are all significantly increased from prior.
So the assets is for both single and married?
Yeah, they're the same. The incomes are different, but the assets are the same.
Thank you.
Disability,
The disabled exemption, is currently 62,500. For, the income limitations are 22,000 for a single, 33 for a married, and 55,000 for assets. The median is 85,000 for the exemption, 32,500 for single income, 52,500 for married income. And this one has different asset limitations for single and married, which is a little unusual, but single is 87,500 and married is 100. The proposed is increasing the exemption to 100,000, single limitation to 45,000, married to 60, and then assets 125 and 150. There's two current residents that qualify for this exemption.
So the exemption would go up from 62,500 to 100,000. And it's interesting because Brentwood right now, our single and married are the same. It looks like just across the analysis that you guys did, that there's a split in some of the towns.
It looks like just Northampton, but more commonly they're the same in both.
Because for elderly, they're the same in both. Seems to me we would just keep it the same.
Keep it the same. And you can't qualify for a disabled exemption and an elderly exemption, it's one or the other.
Okay.
So you would qualify for the disabled exemption, and then once you became Medicare eligible, then you would switch over and reapply for the elderly.
Okay.
I'll make a motion for a warrant article for the disability.
do I have a second?
For the proposed amounts?
For the proposed, yeah.
Do we wanna make them the same? The assets?
I would, because
I
we just did
would.
that under the elderly.
Yeah.
Do you want those closer to the median, like you did with the elderly, and keep them 100 for single and married?
I guess I'm wondering why they're so different for elderly and blind. Is the assumption just that,
Well, we're disabled, not blind.
oh, sorry, for disabled? Maybe just because of the number of years, because someone could qualify for disabled at almost any age, right?
Well,
Is that
I
thinking behind it?
I think that's probably part of it, and if you're elderly, I think it's more likely that both people would be
Right,
on restricted
Right.
incomes, or if you're disabled, you might
Right.
still have a working partner.
makes sense. I think either way is fine, but yeah, I think making them the same, I mean, maybe that's why they're not the same, because of the assumption that you may have a,
Yep.
working spouse with more assets. Either way is fine with me.
Yeah, I would make a motion to make them the same.
And set it at the 125, the 100, the 150. Proposed was 125 and 150. Put them both at 125?
Yeah.
I think that seems reasonable.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor of warrant article to increase the disabled exemptions? Say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Motion carries.
And these also, all of these were last redone in 2017?
Yes.
Okay. And then blind is the only one we haven't discussed. Is that up for discussion as well, or no?
That wasn't, ours is, for blind exemption, ours is much higher than the median.
Okay, so that's why it wasn't on.
Historically, that amount has been the same as the disabled exemption. Do you want to leave them and have them be matched, or do you want to leave them separate? There is no income and asset limitations on the blind exemption. They just show the certificate that they're legally blind and they qualify.
Okay. Yeah, 62.5 was what it matched at. I would say keep it the same and increase it to 100.
I'll make a motion. I would agree with that, because I think assets
Yeah.
valuation has gone up, so.
So we're increasing the blind exemption to 100,000 to match the disabled exemption amount.
So, was that a motion? Jen?
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to increase our blind exemption from 62.5 to 100,000 for a warrant article.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Jen, you doing communication committee?
No, I think it was Karen.
The communications committee had a meeting last Thursday. They will have another meeting this Thursday, and then they will be back on the agenda next week with some of their recommendations. So, that's all. I had posted this agenda prior to our actual meeting.
So we're basically bumping that?
Yes, and
So
so,
the general government as well?
yes.
Okay.
More warrant articles?
I don't have any for you tonight. I will have some for you next week. But Liz has something that she would like to discuss with you as far as warrant articles.
Liz, come on down.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm here really as much as anything looking for advice from the board. We are having we have hired somebody to do a proposal for the library. It's a landscape architecture firm, and they have come up with a rendition of our project after having surveyed the community, had a community meeting and things like that. And so we're wondering, I know we've talked in the past about a warrant article, and I know we've talked in the past about, you know, the budget for this being upwards of $250,000. And so I didn't know if you thought that we should look at a regular warrant article, or if that would be too much for the town to consider at this point, and that we should think about a bond for this project.
Are you at 200,000 or are you at?
Yes, we're over that, yes.
How much over? Because we're not gonna bond 200,000.
Right, well, that was what I didn't know. So if it's over 3, is that something that you would consider?
What's the range that the designers are suggesting? I know
Well,
it's
so
very-
we literally just got this today. We're meeting today on it, and we're already looking at what we can use to fundraise as well. Some of the things, there's, you know, cafe tables with umbrellas, we can fundraise for that. There's a bench we can fundraise for. We literally just talked to them about, they are moving the driveway around, the whole driveway and walkways around, and we already have granite curbs there, and we could use those rather than spending $14,000 to get new ones. You know, I've talked to Wayne today about some of the, you know, what he had planned to do anyways for the library, for paving and stuff like that. So we don't know at this point exactly how much we can save. We would like to get it, obviously, to get it down, you know, closer to $300,000, so.
When do they anticipate, if it went through, when would they be doing the project? Because I'm just thinking, maybe you do a capital reserve fund.
Yeah, do we know what the timing might be?
Well, so the landscape architect is going to be done with this soon. And then we'll have to put out RFPs for all of the work, for the road work, for the landscape work, you know, the trees, the shrubs, all that kind of stuff. And again, that's another place where we could probably fundraise, so.
And Liz, is it thought that this would be a rentable space, potential income generation for the library, or has that been discussed?
It hasn't been discussed. The
Okay.
library typically doesn't do that kind of stuff, although, you know, I could see, you know, a graduation party or something like
Sure.
that.
Yeah, I was
but
just, I didn't know if
yeah,
that
I
had
don't
been
know.
even
I don't
on
know
the
how we
table
would
as an
work that
option.
in, so.
I'm just wondering if even the project would even get done in '23.
We
Maybe a
do
warrant
know,
article for capital reserve fund might be,
Well,
if you throw in 75 to 100 in that.
if the architect's done, you should be able to do an RFP, and it should be shovel ready to start at the end of summer.
If you can get them to commit to doing the work by
Right.
it, because look how long we were up for the bridge.
I know.
Right, but two
it's-
different.
Yeah, this is a big project though. I mean, that whole amphitheater redesign is gonna be lots of work. It's not gonna be $300,000 worth of exterior landscaping is a huge project. I mean, that's more than
Well,
what we spent on the
A
bridge.
big percentage of it is the remodeling of the driveway. We're gonna have different parking situation. We're not gonna have people walking up the driveway to get into the library. We're gonna have sidewalks there close to it. We're gonna have fencing along the amphitheater, so we don't have to worry about somebody accidentally driving into it, or at least having a little bit of a stop there. And just really redesigning the driveway. We'll have 24 parking spaces now. The other thing we need to think about too is that, I know this is like way out there, but it does also, our project doesn't impact the ball field that's there, but it could lead to an improvement of use of that ball field, which doesn't get used that much. So if we had a better design and better parking there, then that's a potential benefit, but, that's up to the rec center too, so.
Who does that ball field belong to? The town?
The town.
Yes,
Town,
the rec.
land, rec, technically
Right.
under the rec?
Yeah, but the rec doesn't really use it that much because there's no
no
parking
parking,
there.
yeah.
So if it's open, if they're trying to use it when the library is open, it turns out to be a big issue.
They
so.
used to have like T-ball or
Right,
something like
yeah.
that over there,
Right.
just
Yeah.
because it was
Such.
wasn't a well-maintained field,
Yeah.
so it was
It's
just,
a small little field.
So Karen has a copy of the presentation that is going on this evening there, and we can,
she'll upload it to the OneDrive tomorrow.
yeah,
Let's say you want to warrant for the entire cost of the project. What would the trustees put forward as a number?
well, we haven't,
You're not even at that point yet?
Right, we need to
Okay.
go through and see where we can fundraise. That has been part of
Gotcha.
what the community, when we did the community survey, that has been part of what they asked us to do, to see where people could participate in it. So, all the way from people that know how to make, sun sails, those shade things, to bricks that we could use for the walkway,
Gotcha.
to, right now, we're recycling plastic at the library, and we could use benches for that,
Yep.
rather than having, a granite bench or
Right.
something like that, so.
So right now, all you guys really have is a rough order of magnitude. You don't have this is what we believe it's gonna come in at. It's kind of like.
Right, well, this
Here's
is
what we
this
think
is
we're
another
gonna-
opportunity tonight for the community to see it and to comment on it,
And-
And
to
the
see.
architect's not gonna give a price, he's just gonna
Yeah.
give the
I was gonna
design
say
Right.
this is what a design, now you
Right.
gotta have somebody come
and bid
give
it.
you some bids. And
Right.
Right, so now we'll have to do RFPs. But the urgency of it is that, as you all know, it's a mess right now, and it's
rotting.
dangerous. We've got the orange snow fence all around it, you can't go in it, so it's really a
I-
mess.
I would say, I like Bob's idea, but funded it like 200,000. And then,
So enough that you could do the bulk of the project, hopefully, and then if there was more needed,
Capital reserve it and then.
go
Right.
forward.
so at least it can roll over. And then maybe, this has been on my mind, but we'll agenda next meeting for, talk about the ARPA funds, see what the tax impact would be if we pulled the amount that we were gonna use this year and set it aside for the library fund, the amphitheater.
We also have ARPA funds left. Right, did we even have some left above and beyond what we set aside for fire?
You'll have 149 left.
So,
And I know there's been, speaking of ARPA, I know there's been some comment about that it was a bad choice for this board to use ARPA funds to cover employee raises, and I just want to state definitively, when you're talking about taxes, a dollar is a dollar. So it's this, we weren't doing that to say, hey, we wouldn't have given raises without this money. We were saying, we're giving these raises because this is what our community needs. But we realized, hey, we have this ARPA funds and this is sort of a tidy amount to put in. So whether we had said that the ARPA funds were for salaries or were for a fire truck or a police truck or the library, it's all, a dollar is a dollar is a dollar. And so, yeah, to your point, we could decide do we wanna pull some of that out or redistribute some of it to the
But that should be
library?
an agendized
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah, it can be, but it's sort of a, you know, a dollar's a dollar in the end, when you're looking at total tax impact.
Yeah, because if you got 149, technically you could say, well, if it's gonna be 300, I'm gonna just do a warrant for 150.
Would we
Right.
have to warrant to use some of the ARPA for that, or no,
No.
right, we could decide that next year?
The board can make that
Yes.
decision.
But that makes your 200 number make even more sense, because if theirs comes in at 285, we have that potential
Yeah.
possibility of using ARPA to cover the rest. Okay.
Or
So-
if the warrant
so
article, if you go
warrant.
to 200 and it gets cut down.
So I would get
you
with
got
Karen
149 to play with.
and write a capital reserve
Warrant.
warrant article.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay.
And by that point, we will have tried to come up with numbers that we feel like we can fundraise for to save,
Kind of
so
ballpark.
that we can make sure that we're closer to the number that you want. Will that number be firm for you, or will Karen and I be able to figure out?
Well, for the warrant, the number would have to be, we need a firm number
warrant
to
is
go
firm.
before the
Right.
warrant. And
Right.
that, we have a date of what, do we have to have by?
Ideally, you would have the warrants next week so that the budget committee can have them at their meeting on the
30th.
30th.
Yeah, so it's gonna be
Yeah.
fast and furious. to
Yeah,
get
I
us-
think what Andy is
Believe me,
saying
we
is,
just did the budget, we know
Yeah.
fast and furious.
I think what Andy is saying is the realization that it might come in at more than 200, but at least you would have that secured.
It will be more than
And then if
200,
we
yes.
needed to find more money that wasn't done by fundraising, we could have a discussion about
Mhm.
other options like ARPA. That's what you're saying? I'm saying, yes.
So we'll start with the 200, then expect ARPA, and how would that work? I mean, it
So
would
if
just come
You would
back to
have
you
two hundred
afterwards?
thousand, if it
If it passes.
was passed, you'd have
Right.
200,000 next year. If that wasn't enough money, the current sitting board could either offer you some ARPA funds, or the project would have to get delayed a year,
And do it again, another
Another-
capital
And
reserve.
do it again.
or start the project knowing that the completion couldn't be until 2025.
No,
Four.
24, because 23
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So you might say, well,
And how,
we know we can do X,
The
Y, and
parking
Z
lot.
Phase
for
one and phase two.
200,000, yeah.
right, we can phase it
Then I'm
out.
gonna do another capital reserve proposal warrant article for 100,000,
Yeah,
and then you come back and you do that.
But how long would those ARPA funds be available? Isn't there a time
26.
limit to those?
2026.
We just need to know how we're gonna spend them.
Right.
But,
You
I
can
mean,
spend it before 2026.
town
Okay.
meeting could change the warrant article to 100,000,
yeah.
and
I
then,
mean, it's kind of like we did with the
Right.
highway shed. We only built the part of it, we didn't do the whole project.
Right,
because
you
we
didn't do
have
the
funds.
interior,
Right.
just did the
But
exterior.
it was sort of.
So
good enough.
now, but when we talk about the driveway part of it, does that have to, does Wayne have to put something in for that too? Does the highway?
Wayne doesn't have anything budgeted for the driveway, so that would be all part of the project.
Right, but should we do that? Should we have him take care of it with the contractors that he usually uses?
Like Bell and Flynn.
I would say
yeah.
whatever, you could offer them to bid it, but I would probably get a better price if your contractor bid the whole package. You're the,
Yeah, sometimes when you end up piecemealing, you know, you're gonna find that, you know, well, if I'm only gonna be doing this portion, I'm gonna charge this much.
Right,
If I'm gonna get the whole package, then I'm gonna say, yeah, because they're gonna have a project manager who's basically gonna say, we're doing this, 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 and this, and I got my schedule laid out, and they're gonna keep track of their subcontractors. If you have Wayne doing it, and all of a sudden Bell and Flynn doing the paving, and they can't get over there,
right,
well, now the project manager might charge you an extra 10% for his inconvenience of having to work around somebody.
right.
And they factor that in when they're doing the whole project management. You know, whoever's got the PRM on that is gonna basically go through and go, yeah, you're gonna have somebody else come in here and step on my toes, I'm gonna throw an extra 15-20% on this just because it's not worth it to me.
plus the GC's gonna have his subs that work for him on a regular basis.
That he can call and
They
say,
give
"Go over
him
here,"
a better deal because he keeps them
working.
Right, and we've worked with Emmanuel Engineering on this from the start, so, and they had all the information about the septic, and they do the engineering studies for how high the wall, you know, what the retaining walls can be, and things like that.
Did we set up a capital
Are
reserve for this
we
originally?
building a wall?
No.
Did we set up a capital reserve?
Oh,
Yes.
we do have to have one retaining.
I think it was for this, for the
engineering
development.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
So would we just dump it into the same capital reserve?
Yes.
So
I
we don't have to
believe so.
set one up?
No, I think the one that was created was for the design and construction,
Yeah.
design, engineering and
So, yeah,
construction.
we
so you
just
could-
have to add
Covers
to
it.
it.
It was 50,000, that was what
And
we
that was
started.
presumably all used in this process.
Has it, we
Or
haven't
will
used
be.
it all yet, no.
Oh, okay.
Right, we have not.
Which is good, right?
Yeah,
If you have
if there's a
another-
little bit left over,
Right,
that's good.
yeah.
So just so I'm clear, are you authorizing a new warrant article for 200,000, or are you trying to bring the current account balance to 200?
Well, do we know what's in it right now? How much of that 50,000 is left?
Oh, we're in the 40s still with it. So but we haven't paid the.
You
last
haven't
guy.
paid this
We
one.
haven't paid this guy yet, no.
So
I would say it's.
And
Add
add
200.
200.
Yeah.
Add to.
Right, add 200,
Yeah.
I would say.
Because that money was already earmarked for development.
Right, I think his design is, and all of that is like $42,000.
Okay, yeah,
So,
okay.
okay,
Put it
so
to the
you
voters.
will,
We'll put it to the voters.
yes, and I have to say, you will love when you see the handouts,
Beautiful.
the
Did I put it
renderings. It's really beautiful, it's very cool, so.
Do we want to vote on that, Andy, or wait
We have to wait
till
for the
next week for
numbers.
them
You can
to
wait till
come?
next week.
Okay, perfect,
I don't think they have to come with it, as long as they
Yeah.
give it to Karen.
perfect.
That improves your view.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true, you're next door.
I think he needs an 8-foot fence.
Well, that's what I was saying, she was
She's
talking
like, "A
about
fence?"
building a wall.
Yeah, no.
Between our Timovich property and the
And I
library,
want
the
spray
wall.
paint on the other side.
I think your
We'll
house
have
is
the
in one of
kids
these pictures.
drawing on it, so,
Yeah, so have them draw it and spin the fence.
right.
Then they can.
So,
put it on the other side.
We really do appreciate it. I'm sorry that we're not as up to speed on how this process works, but it's just all new to me, so.
Andy, somebody have this.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Lois Young, Crawley Falls Road. If it does not pass, are you going to get a second warrant article? Because they do have to repair that, it's a hazard, so it needs repair, basic repair. We're talking, I think the number I heard was like 25,000, but I don't know if that's right. But what to repair the atrium, enough to, amphitheater, enough to make it not hazardous. So if the article goes down, I would think you would need a second warrant article to make sure that the repairs were at least done.
Well, if there was a modification to the warrant article, so let's say we put forward 200,000 and that doesn't pass, you can change the number, it's still gonna be going into the same account that basically can handle that amphitheater area, that library improvement. So even if they dropped it down to 25,000, it wouldn't really need a second warrant article, you'd say, well,
Okay,
we're still gonna put that money into the reserve and use that money to,
that's why I'm asking.
Well, but if it gets,
That's what I was asking.
if it loses, if it gets voted down, then you have $0.
right,
That's, I think, to Lois's point.
yeah, typically you're gonna have people modifying the warrant article, I think.
Yeah, I think the chance of it getting zeroed out is
Yeah, slim.
not very good, but it's a
Mhm.
possibility. If that did happen, do we have any other, like, could we pull it out of a building maintenance fund or
Pull
something
it out
like
of
that?
ARPA too. if
I don't
you
know
We
if they
also-
have, short of bulldozing it, I don't know if they have another plan of,
A temporizing
fix it.
plan?
No, there's
you
no
can't
fix
really
to
just
it.
fix
What,
it.
Lois, what are you referring to that would cost $25,000 to make it less
At the
hazardous?
meeting that I was in, all of them, they said that, he said that just the repairs, and I'm not even sure at this point.
No,
I don't have my notes in front of me, that they could repair, make it safe, and I'm not even sure who said this, for the 25, that number.
No, that's,
I don't remember.
that's not something I recall, Lois, so.
Well, I have notes, it was specifically asked at the end, what would be if there was no money at all, what, because they kept saying it was unsafe, it had to be taken care of, that was the firewall, and they could make it safe. I haven't even questioned about that too, and that wasn't made safe for the first 50,000, but that's a personal question. Then they can make it at least safe, because it needs to be done ASAP, not when the, and he also asked the designer if they could, this making it safe and what had to be done could be used as part of as it went later on, when they want to do the rest of it.
Oh,
It could be made safe temporarily and then be part of the plan, the overall plan.
No, so I understand what you're saying. It wasn't about making what we have there safe. It was about demolishing what's there and grading it so that there's no amphitheater and there's no nothing. It's just
Oh, okay.
a dirt,
To your point,
a
a
dirt
bulldozer
bowl.
solution.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, it's a dirt bowl there, so they're not gonna repair that. There's
But
no
I use the
repair
word
to that.
repair, but
Right,
like just
yes.
saying, were
Yeah,
going
so
to
they
say-
would
Okay.
just bulldoze it.
Gotcha.
Calling it make it safe.
I mean, this is the discussion that will happen at town meeting,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So hopefully it will
Right.
go a good way.
Okay, thank you again.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have nothing else for public session.
Russ?
No.
Bob?
Concom is in the process of finalizing the signs for the trails and for mud season that's gonna be coming up. So they're in the process of resolving that.
I think it's always been mud season. Really haven't got out of mud season
Year
yet this
round.
winter.
Yeah, it's
Mud
still
season.
very soft. But one of the things that was requested is they come up with signs to stop people from going on during certain times, especially how muddy it is, because they just pour them out and create a mess, and they don't respect the trails. Tread Lightly is one of the groups that I know I'm part of. There's certain times you don't go on trails, mud out. So they're working on those signs. They should be coming before the board for approval on that pretty soon. And then the only other change, we did approve an amount. And I know one of the things that the board was worried about is it's a different name of the company. And I told them we approved an amount last meeting. So I said, it's not, I don't really care who does it. If it's John Doe or Jane Doe, it doesn't really matter to me. So, and I think that's just so you want to make sure the board is aware of it. That's all I got.
This is beautiful.
Jen?
I just wanted to follow up, so at the very end of last week's meeting, Letty had presented that the school was feeling a little bit uncomfortable about letting us move all elections to the school, and I'm just wondering what our next steps in discussion and negotiation on that are, because I don't think that will meet the needs as requested by Dick Chamberlain and Daphne, especially because it didn't include some of the primary elections where we've sometimes had up to 90% turnout in the town. So I just wonder from this board what our next communication strategy will be with that board and or the SAU on that topic.
They had approved the March election, and then I believe Daphne would like to wait until after that election and let the new sitting board take place,
Okay.
and then ask to be on a follow-up
Okay.
agenda and approach it at
Perfect,
that
okay,
time.
so just go ahead with March, see how it goes, and then rediscuss.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, just wanted to close that loop.
And I did speak with Principal Q. He said that they would be happy to allow the use of the STEAM classroom, which is right next door to the gymnasium. He was concerned with liability insurance, and I informed him that we would be working with Andy, and all of the staff working there are town employees, so they're good with that.
Awesome.
So is that 100% guaranteed we'll have babysitting for town meeting, or are we still?
I believe so. I'll double check with Andy on the numbers. I think he's looking between 2 and 4 counselors. I think he's a little bit nervous because it's hard to gauge
Participation.
participation.
Yep.
So he's going to plan for more participation than not based off of the average number of
Great.
voters we've gotten in the past.
Awesome.
I have nothing. Public comment, Wayne, did you have anything?
I'm all set.
Just hanging out with us on a Tuesday night?
And one more
Letty?
thing.
We was hoping for snow.
Letting go in the road, on behalf of myself and not on any board I'm on, we are, obviously you've presented all your budgets to budget committee and they've all passed. And I think what you're doing for the elder exemption is a good thing, but I think it would be a good idea maybe next year to think about the income limit you set for elderly exemptions as like a hardship for them to pay their taxes is higher than you pay some town employees that work full-time. So that might be something worth considering.
One of the reasons we did some wage adjustments.
Yeah. That's it.
Jack?
Just one further thing. if the warrant article passes for the low-income elderly, there needs to be a way to publicize that fact. And would it be possible to just put a line on the tax bill or something that then it would be in the hands of everybody to indicate that they could check with Daphne or whatever, just to make people aware of it.
On the July tax bills, could it go?
How do we usually do
We would have
this?
to post it on the website and on the town's Facebook page, because the application deadline in order for it to qualify for the 23 taxes is April 15th. So they will have from town meeting until April 15th to get their
So only like
paperwork
a
in.
month.
So it's pretty quick.
What,
The people that would be most affected may or may not be, internet
Right.
connected, and so on.
what is the deadline when they have to,
Lois, can you wait to be acknowledged, please?
oh, I'm sorry, Lois, yeah.
Hold on, Jack, we're still talking.
I'm done.
Okay. So the only other thing I can recommend is doing something at a senior lunch or,
Oh, Andy could mention it as next luncheon. The deadlines are set by statute, so they're
Right.
not, those are not negotiable. But I can ask Andy to bring that up at his next senior luncheons, just to try to get it out there a little bit
Yeah,
more.
that this is, something's gonna be discussed at the meeting.
And would we post it up here, like for people that come to pay their taxes in person?
by then it'd be too late.
Oh, that's right, because that would be
Because it's
past,
July.
you're right, because you just said April. Okay, yeah.
Lois, what was your question?
I just wondered what the deadline was to apply for the exemption.
She said it was April 15th.
April 15th, so if it happened at the town meeting, they would have a month,
Mhm.
just about, to apply for next year.
For this year.
For
Is
this
that
year.
correct?
For this year.
Well, yeah, I forget, we're 23. Okay, yeah, because I have neighbors, many of them, not many, but I have several that are interested. And,
Spread the word,
I'd like to spread it.
or tell them to come to town meeting and vote for it.
And then they'll know immediately,
Yeah, then they'll know.
and Karen will spring forms.
It's a lot of paperwork for them to hand in.
Anybody else?
Motion to go into non-public for legal.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to go on non-public for legal matters. All in favor?
6:57.
Aye. Anybody
6:57.
opposed? Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Jack, for presenting that.
Have a good night, Darcy.
It's gonna be like standard